Time for a week-ending strategy session with political commentator Jerry Nichols, coming to us from downtown Toronto. And joining me here in studio with me is political commentator Sarah Bain and media styles Caitlin Keeley. So I'm going to start with you, Jerry, because there's a poll that's out today that says that 21% of Ontarians say they're less likely to vote for Andrew Scheer because of Doug Ford. So if you were an Andrew Scheer, say that you were an Andrew Scheer strategist, would you tell him not to campaign with Mr. Ford?
Well, first of all, what I would tell him is ignore this poll. I'm very dubious about this poll. I've read some of the questions. There's a couple of reasons why I don't think it's all that accurate. But that aside, I think other polls have shown that Doug Ford is less than popular and that, yeah, there is a chance that he could negatively impact on Scheer in the next election. And I think this reflects a larger problem for Scheer, a problem he's had since he became leader, and that is he's had a hard time sort of distancing himself or escaping the shadow from other conservative leaders, whether it's Doug Ford or Stephen Harper, Donald Trump, maybe now Jason Kenney. So I think the real priority for Andrew Scheer in the summer months is to create his own brand, to create his own persona, to create his own image so that he's less likely to be hurt by the actions of other politicians. He can say, hey, vote for me because you like me. And just in case that doesn't work, he should also continue to bash Justin Trudeau as much as he can.
So I'm wondering, Caitlin, is this good news for the NDP in Ontario? Ontario, we know now, months before the election, will be one of the big battlegrounds. So is this good news for the NDP? People are now shopping?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a shopping sentiment happening. I'm not sure it's great news for the NDP, but it's good news. And I think Doug Ford's continued slide into the deep depths and darkness of disapproval from cutting and slashing every social service that we all care about. It cannot be understated. The most interesting thing about the poll is how much the Greens have bumped up. And I think that's probably also worth noting. They went from 5% to 13% in the past few months in approval ratings, since they're pulling more of the, they're pulling more of the numbers.
And usually more than 10% translates into actual real seats when you look at the polls. But Sarah, let me ask you, Justin Trudeau's had a number of bad news, bad press in the last few months. Is this finally a breather? Is this signify that maybe there is a chance that, Ontario will be actually a good ground for the Liberals?
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that Ford is going to really hurt Scheer, because when they see Ford, when voters see Ford, they see what they fear, a hidden agenda. So Ford went into the last election, didn't talk about all these cuts that he's making to autism, to the council, the City Council of Toronto, to the beer stores. And so they hear this, and Canadian voters, they're watching what's happening in all the provinces, they see what's happening in Ontario, and there's a buyer's remorse. And of course that buyer's remorse now is reflecting in the polls. So no surprise there, but I think that Mr. Ford could be a very big damage to Mr. Scheer.
So I want to go to a more, sort of a strategic question to you three, because, we've had this discussion in our newsrooms. You've certainly read about the fact that Andrew Scheer will not attend the Pride Parade. So, Jerry, is this strategically a good idea?
Well, I think you have to understand Scheer's ideology. Okay, Scheer doesn't believe in conservatism. He doesn't believe in populism. He doesn't believe in libertarianism. What I think he does believe in is cautionism. In other words, he's extremely cautious. And I think the fact that he's sort of ahead in the polls right now has increased his caution sort of level. So I think when he looks at something like this, he's saying to himself, will this help me or hurt me? And he might be saying, look, I could attend 1,000 gay pride parades in Toronto, and my enemies will still call me a homophobe. Won't change that. On the other hand, if I do attend, some of my own supporters might be mad at me because they're saying, oh, why are you giving into this politically correct elite stuff? Okay, so I think he's saying, I'm not sure what to do, so I'm going to do nothing. Will this hurt him? I don't know. I think this kind of issue matters more to the media than to regular voters.
Is that true? Does it matter more to the media? I mean, it seems that, his base is a base. It's a conservative base is still there. Right? Whether he, I guess, attends, I don't know that conservatives would walk away and say, oh, my leader attended a gay pride. I don't want to vote for him. So why not just do it?
Yeah, well, I'm going to repeat in a very different way some of the things that Jerry just said. I think there's a huge gap between the do and the say with Scheer. Just a couple of days ago, he goes out saying that he's not going to tolerate intolerance in his party and then won't show up to Pride events. It just doesn't make a lot of sense, and it seems dishonest. There's a disconnect there. So if he was to go, this is a damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. If he was to go, his record on same-sex marriage would come out. And so he's going to look either like he's being dishonest or he doesn't really believe in what he's doing. Or the worst part, I think, for him, and that's where the real political calculation is what it will do to his base and internally. It's going to cause a divide because there are a lot of supporters of his who would not want him to be at these kind of events.
So let me ask you, Caitlin, because I'm curious. Now a politician, sort of is applying for the job to become prime minister. Is this compulsory? Is going to Pride now has become, for whatever reasons, don't want to go back to those, but now politically and strategically, is it just a must do?
No, I don't think he should go. He doesn't support gay pride. The gay pride parade stems from supporting and fighting back against those that are oppressing LGBTQ2S people. They probably don't want him there anyways, so I think it would be a bad move to be there because he's literally holding them back and not giving them a hand up. So him being there is a complete false.
Yeah. So you mean it would look hypocritical?
He doesn't support LGBTQ2S, so why would he go to march in a parade to support them?
Right.
It would probably, his attendance would make cisgendered white people feel better, but it's not the obvious place for him to be, and I don't think it would give him any advantage because, as you guys have already said, in both directions, he'll get criticized for it.
So we're going to move to another topic that, again, we have talked a lot about in our newsroom. So Elections Canada is planning to get the youth out to vote in October. So by employing social media influencers, right? So by getting a half a dozen or a dozen of them, $650,000 is the budget for this, and to get them to talk to young people on social media and tell them to go and vote. Now I know this has become, for some reason, controversial. Jerry, do you find that controversial?
Yeah, I do, and I do for a couple of reasons. First of all, it kind of offends my libertarian spirit. I don't think the state has any business hectoring people to vote. That's not their job. That's what political parties are supposed to do. And the second problem I have with it, well, is if you're talking about getting one demographic to vote, young people, the pollsters tell us that these people are more likely to vote Liberal. So isn't Elections Canada essentially using tax dollars to help the Liberal get out the vote? And I think that's wrong.
So we only have a minute left, but I want to hear you on this because really, is it a Liberal thing to tell people to go out and vote? So we know young people vote mostly Liberal, apparently. Is it really wrong to go and get young people where they're listening, Sarah?
Not wrong at all. In fact, voter turnout is a huge problem in Canada, and I assure you that the groups who are trying to suppress the vote are going to be very active in the next election. So, of course, it's important that Elections Canada use every tool they have at their disposal. And influencers on social media, it's a job, and they deserve to be paid for that kind of work.
So the research shows that people that start voting when they're young vote when they get older. So don't worry, Jerry, they'll come to you later. But I think we need to applaud Elections Canada. It'll still matter. I think Elections Canada should be applauded for this because, the clip art with the question mark and the little bonhomme that says, "Where do I go vote?" is so like 1980. So investing in digital technologies where people are and trying to address a low voter turnout is key and important.
Well, thank you so much for that, Sarah, Jerry, and Caitlin. Thanks. Have a nice weekend.
You too.
Thank you. See you next Friday.